Welcome to the Thrival Journey. We're a new podcast dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs to uncover and embrace their purpose here on Earth. As multifaceted human beings, we strive to navigate our financial, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. And that's what this podcast is all about. We're here to inspire, uplift, and equip you with the tools to thrive on your journey to greatness. All we ask in return is your support. 1, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or 2, download the podcast from your favorite platform. Your engagement, it helps us grow and attract incredible guests who will enrich your life with valuable insights and wisdom. Now, in turn, we promise to keep bringing you content that enlivens, edifies, and elevates your journey, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a human being. And with that, I want to thank you for being a part of the Thrival Journey. How did the Airbnb really change your life?
Airbnb is money.
Okay.
It's easy money. Period.
And how,
it's not it might not be the most honorable or valiant thing to say, but straight up, if you're a person who works a full-time job or you have a bunch of things you're responsible for and you just need to increase your capital and not have to work a ton of hours, Airbnb that was it, because that's where I was. I was working a full-time job. I had a part-time gig, teaching poetry to youth at one of the Boys and Girls Clubs. I occasionally worked at a restaurant. I had student loans. I had all that. At one point, I had 3 or 4 different jobs at the same time.
I was like,
this is not sustainable. How do I get out of this? Airbnb,
right.
Man, if you calculated, I remember calculating the hourly compared to my full-time job, and the hourly was 4 times. Resources, if you don't have resources, you need them. The number one thing you want to do, a lot of people come to me and they want to buy an investment property and they don't own a home of their own yet. And it just doesn't make sense. So
how does one identify the opportunity for what an Airbnb is, or how do they first identify that opportunity?
But I think the bigger question that most people are usually curious about is, how do I identify something that will be high performing? Because every Airbnb is not high performing. There's a lot of below out there and a lot of listings that are just super mediocre and doing very okay.
Really?
High performing. I create high performance.
Yeah. Beat up, bullied, and dunked on. Beat up, bullied, and dunked on. Bullied and dunked on. Yeah. Let's get it.
Welcome to another episode of the Thrival Journey. Today, we have a good friend of mine. We go back, a couple years. Couple years. And I'm so happy to have her on. She's a dynamic individual, human being, woman, and she'll have a lot to share with us, I'm sure. And Tawny Powell, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I'm glad that you are here. I know you saw the podcast and you was like, yo, what's up, man? I love that.
Yes.
Me and my producer, we were talking about you before we had actually had that exchange. And so it was perfect timing, and it was great. So where are you in the world today?
Today I am in Lima, Peru.
Oh my gosh.
This is home for the time being. This is home now for the time being. Yeah.
Who is Tawny Powell?
Who am I?
Yeah.
Well, I'm probably a lot of things. In the world of what I offer and provide to the world, I am a real estate investor, agent, consultant, and coach. And so I work with people to help them buy their first home, their first investment property, Airbnb all or a portion of it, and really rapidly change their life through increasing their income, sometimes double, triple, or quadruple, depending on the strategy, to free people up. So essentially, who am I? I guess I'm a person who really lives their best life and lives a very free life, and I'm here to create that for everybody else in the world, and they get to do whatever they want.
Yeah, I was when I first met you.
I remember it well.
I remember it well. Was it 2022?
I think perhaps
I
I was
think it
at
was
a restaurant. I was interviewing you, and I had
yeah,
a blackout in my neighborhood, so I like had to relocate to a restaurant last minute. Luckily, you've been
that's
patient
it.
with me.
That was it.
Mhm.
And my first impression was like, man, this person is like she's so cool. She's living or is it Dominican Republic or is it Puerto
I
Rico?
was in the DR at that time. Yeah, yeah, which was fun.
Wow.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you had a blackout, you had to go to the restaurant and you're interviewing me for a program that we did together.
Hmm.
And through that program is how I got to know you well.
For sure. Yeah.
And I got to know you as a dynamic and powerful human being.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Um, what was your journey like from like before real estate to get to real estate and Airbnb? What was that journey like?
Wow. Interesting, unique, and surprising. So I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in sociology, and I like for most of my childhood and early adulthood thought I was going to become a professor until I got to grad school and I realized I hate this. And so,
Okay.
uh, as part of my master's thesis, I was like researching nonprofits because I really just had a yearning to be in the community doing something. I got really tired of talking about social problems and not actually going out and making a difference.
Hmm.
So that's why I hated it so much. So it was perfect. So doing my master's research, I realized I really wanted to work for a community development organization because I was reading about them and all over the country and just like the cool work they were doing, the impact they were making on neighborhoods, communities, cities, on people's lives. And I really wanted to work at that level. Um, and so when I finished grad school and moved to Atlanta, that's what happened. I got my first job at a nonprofit community development organization. And I really wanted to do like outward organizing, and they had a need in the home ownership center. And so I
Hmm.
took it because I needed a job, you know? Um, and initially I thought like this is super boring, you know. I
Mm,
had
okay.
zero interest in like home ownership, didn't even really think twice about real estate. But through the process, you know, I got trained. I was just initially a program assistant, but I had a really great relationship with my director and everyone in the department. The people there were amazing. So they trained me on all kinds of stuff, and I learned how to teach workshops to people on how to buy their first home before I even owned a home myself. And I really got to learn the home buying process very in depth. And through the process, bought my own home. Had a great mentor, and within 2 years, that price of the home I bought doubled, and I was able to sell that for a profit. And that was the beginning of like that changed my life because I don't come from a family that has a boatload of money, you know, like no one had a down payment to give me or anything. It was like,
Right.
okay, we got you here, off to college you go,
Uh-huh.
you know, good luck. Call us if you need anything.
I hear you.
But you know, you're on your own. So I'd never seen that much money in a bank account before, ever. And it was like a really powerful moment for me to realize, like, what do I want to do with this and what can I do with this? And that's kind of where the real estate investor in me came alive. And then after, you know, doing that and buying one property, a second property, a third property, and growing a small portfolio, I realized, like, I mean, I can do this. Like, I've done it. And so
So
that was like
you learn
years
all of that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was like 9 years ago when that started. So I've been at this for a hot minute. It'll be 10 years next year.
10 years. So
Hmm.
you learned all of that with from the people that taught you before.
Not necessarily. I learned how to buy a home from the organization I worked with, right? Because I was teaching people how to do it.
Hmm.
I learned how to do it really affordably, and I got sent to like national trainings. And I learned that this kind of opportunities are all over the US, which was cool. I found a mentor while I was shopping for my home who gave me advice on like where to buy. So I didn't know that. I don't know that I would have
Okay.
bought where I did without his guidance, and essentially made double my money if I didn't have his guidance, you know? Um, and when I owned my first home, it was kind of like an accident. I was like, I was in a serious partnership with someone, and I planned, you know, we were going to share the bills and all of this, and then we broke up like shortly
Oh,
after I bought my house. So I was
uh-oh.
debating, like, I know, right? I was like, do I want to get roommates, or Airbnb was like brand new. You know, I had stayed in an Airbnb once in New Orleans like the year before, but it was like super new. It wasn't in a lot of cities yet. And I was like debating, what do I want to do? And, you know, it's the little things. Like, I realized I didn't want roommates, Mike, because I didn't want to share my fridge.
I
Anybody who
hear
knows
you.
I'm a huge cook. I love to cook. My fridge is full with
Yeah.
just my stuff already. I don't want to share. So so I decided to try Airbnb. And my first guest was my worst guest, still to this day, but it was fine. Like, it was lucky that there were still other guests on the calendar, so I couldn't just cancel like right away, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the other guests got better, and like I ended up making friends. I still have friends to this day who were guests in my first house when I was living on site with them. They still come and visit me when they come to wherever I am, wherever I live at the time. That's kind of how it started. And I took that one property and turned it into two, and then a couple years later, it turned into three. And I was like, oh, I can do this.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not afraid like of anything. I'm not afraid to like mess something up or make a mistake. I think everything is fixable pretty much, and everything is figure outable. So
I think that's a good point, because I even talk from my experience. I think that
Mhm.
that stops people from moving forward. There's a fear of, I'm not doing it right, or I can't get it right, or what if
Yeah.
I mess this thing all the way up?
Right.
And it stops people from moving forward. But you had no fear in that.
No, I had no fear. I mean, I kind of get that from my dad, from my childhood. He made me
Yeah.
kind of fearless. Fearless, and like a just probably a very irrational belief in myself.
Okay. Well,
But
that served you.
completely, you're right. And today, I'm just not afraid to make a mistake or mess something up. Everything is fixable. Like,
Everything is fixable.
yeah. And you learn something every time. So I don't look at it like a bad thing.
And you talked about a mentor. How did you find a mentor? And how did
Yeah.
that change the trajectory of where you are now, or did it?
Yeah, it did. It did. It was like super accidental and totally organic, which is probably not helpful if I'm trying to, if anyone's listening, because you can't really like force that to happen, right? But it was perfect. We're still really close friends to this day. So I was shopping for my home and working at the first nonprofit that I got my first job at, teaching homebuyer education. And it was random, like on a Friday afternoon, I get this email from this guy, you know, named Derek. And
Mhm.
it was like a promo for come out and see our home buying tour tomorrow. And I was like, what? And asking, you know, I was a, you know, professional in the field. So he sent it to like a bunch of real estate agents, lenders, whatever, asking us to share it with our, you know, clients or our email base. And I was thinking like, wow, this is a great opportunity. And it's tomorrow. Like, it's like less than 24 hours from now, you know? So I didn't blast it out. I actually don't remember if I did or not. I don't think I did. But I went myself because I was like, well, I'm free. I can go. And so I did. And I met Derek. There wasn't a lot of people there because it was kind of last minute marketing. But I
Mhm.
met Derek and we just like clicked immediately. Like, you know, when you meet somebody and you just start talking and you could be there an
Yeah.
hour, time flies.
Yeah.
That's just what happened. And from there, I ended up going to work for him. He created and founded a similar nonprofit on the west side of Atlanta, which is where I ended up buying and living. And that's where he lived. And he sort of wanted to kind of duplicate somewhat what the organization I had been at was doing, but on the west side, because it was very underserved and there was lots of opportunity. So I worked for him for 4 years, running this nonprofit and like building it up from the ground, teaching the same things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was completely organic,
Yeah.
and it led to where you bought your first property.
Yep.
And so how does one find a mentor then? if it's like not
No,
organic.
no, I don't know if I'm the best person for that advice. Like, I've never gone out intentionally seeking a mentor, and I hear that that's like really, it can add a lot of value to people in their life, right? It can save people a lot of time and energy and mistakes. I've just never gone and sought it, but it just sort of magically happened for me. So, I mean, I think there are like organizations and opportunities that people can get like paired up. I don't necessarily know what those are.
But
I'm not the
but
best one for that.
yeah, but mentors are important, and I know that I have sought one,
Hmm.
but I've never really had a true mentor. And I
Yeah.
know that I have had friends that do exceedingly well, but they're
Hmm.
like friends, and I don't want a friend as a mentor. It's
Fair.
kind of it's not it doesn't feel right, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
very fair.
So you
Mhm.
went from real estate. Now, starting in real estate, uh, what was your the biggest challenge that you had when you started in real estate to like getting your first property and duplicating that?
Biggest challenge. When I bought my second property, so after I sold my first, I had enough capital that I could buy two. So I bought one to live in for the time being, at least for myself, and then I bought my first investment property. Um, when I bought my first investment property, it needed some work. It didn't need a lot. Like it wasn't like a gut job or anything. It visually looked okay, but you could tell like it needed a good deep clean, which I largely did myself.
Hmm.
It needed like some fresh paint. It needed like, some of the cabinet doors need to be replaced, like stuff like that. And my brother, I have to shout out my brother. I hired him to help me for a number of days and he helped me kind of get it into pristine condition. That property, I've heard the phrase since then, there's never nothing more expensive than a cheap house.
Right.
And it kind of proved to be true. I paid $56,000 for this house, Mike. Like you can't find that anywhere near Atlanta today. So
No, not at all.
this was in East Point. And so it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, small, but still like good size. And that house gave me problem after problem after problem after problem. Like the plumbing was not necessarily done correctly. Some of it was way outdated and old. I had a pipe burst that I had to like tear out a whole wall in a bedroom. We had another pipe just get like clogged and backed up. It had to be completely replaced in the backyard. Um, the roof ended up needing to be replaced.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
I mean, I paid 56 for the house and I probably put at least that much in or close to. And that was the hardest for me because this was my first time doing this and I was green. Like I had a mentor,
Hmm.
but he wasn't walking me through all of this stuff. Like
Hmm.
I would ask him occasionally for an opinion or advice and he would tell me one thing or another, but he wasn't like there with me,
Right.
leading the way. I was sort of figuring it out. Um, and so I remember there was like a time where I really had to look at the numbers and I was like, how much did I pay for this? How much am I sunk in? And like, when can I break even? And how much is it making me? Because every time something would break or go wrong, like it wasn't making me money for a while also. So it ended up, I was like debating, like, should I just sell it and cash out and just like chalk up my loss,
Hmm.
just own it? Or should I keep pushing and just see? And I decided to keep pushing, and thank God I did because the problems slowed and eventually largely stopped they became very, very minor. And so I
Yeah.
was able to have a great return off of that property, but it took a while. The first like 2 years I was like
And-
barely making it. The monthly, it was like profitable, but everything I was making ended up having to go back into paying for something for the house. So not really.
but eventually that it did pay off for you. And then you
Definitely.
got
Yes.
then what happened after that? What was the next step that you took?
Yeah. Then I was able to, the value increased. So the value almost nearly tripled. And so then I
Nice.
was able to pull out some cash for the property and acquire property number 3. And that was really where things changed for me. Like having two was great. I was making a little extra money on the side, which was nice. But having 3, I could afford to hire someone to help me. So up
Mhm.
until then, I was doing everything myself on top of working a full-time job. And it was just like, I was exhausted, for like 2 years, I did that. So having number 3 really made a difference. I was able to start traveling, which I do now. And I took my first trip to Vegas. I took like a 2-week trip. I went to Vegas to a convention, and then I went and visited my family in Massachusetts for like a week and a half. And it was like such a breath of fresh air that I could actually step away from Atlanta and the properties for 2 weeks and just like relax. And someone else was like helping take care of
I bet you
everything.
that felt good.
It did. It was a huge, big change. Like it was another life changer. And then I started traveling a lot more. So
So you didn't give the properties away. You kept the property. So really what I'm hearing is that you had to put in a lot of sweat equity.
I did. I did have to put in a lot of sweat equity, and I do want to be clear. As of today, I have divested from real estate in the U.S., but I did, and I ran them for a few years after that.
Okay. So you have the real estate, and then you switched over to, how did the Airbnb come into play?
I was doing Airbnb from the beginning. From my first
Okay.
house, I Airbnb'd my guest rooms, and then I would Airbnb the whole house when I was traveling. Each property was an Airbnb property.
How did that serve you? I mean, there's people that get into Airbnb, and I know of a specific person, and they bought a house, get into Airbnb, start to do the Airbnb,
Uh-huh.
but the houses, they have to fix the house up and all that good stuff, and they're still not doing the Airbnb.
Well, why? How come they're not doing Airbnb?
Oh, I didn't get that deep. I was like, oh, okay, well,
Is it just not ready yet?
it's
I'm
probably just not ready yet.
oh,
That's what I would think. But
yeah.
how did the Airbnb really change your life?
Airbnb is money.
Okay.
It's easy money. Period.
And how?
Like it's not it may not be the most honorable or valiant thing to say, but yo, straight up, like if you're a person who works a full-time job or you have a bunch of things you're responsible for and you just need to increase your capital and not have to work a ton of hours, like Airbnb that was it, because that's where I was. I was working a full-time job. I had a part-time gig, like teaching poetry to youth at like one of the Boys and Girls Clubs. I occasionally worked at a restaurant. Like I had student loans, I had all that. At one point I had like 3 or 4 different jobs at the same time.
I was
Like
like, yeah,
I was like, this is not sustainable. How do I get out of this?
right.
Airbnb, man, if you calculated, I remember calculating the hourly compared to like my full-time job, and the hourly was like 4 times what I made at my full-time job. When I did that math, I was like,
Wow.
oh, this is me not working for a living at some point. Not
And
working
you're
for someone else at least.
not good full time.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about your first trip to Las
Mm-hmm.
Vegas, to Massachusetts. So this
Yeah.
is what you do now. Like
Yeah.
from every time I talk to you, you're in a different country, different city.
We don't talk all that often, but yes, you're right. For like 4 months now.
See, and is your mom still with you?
Yeah, she's here. She has her own place in Lima. Like shout outs to Lima. Lima's very affordable, so I love that, and I love that for her. So she's able to have her own apartment with a beautiful view and everything, just not too far from me.
Well, tell her I said hi.
I will. We just got tattoos yesterday.
She did what?
We both just got tattoos together yesterday.
Oh, nice. That's
Mhm.
a cool mother-daughter thing.
Unique, right?
What'd you
Mhm.
guys get?
I've got, well, I can't show you. I got a couple of initials. I don't know if I'm gonna say it.
That's okay. You don't have to.
It's not my initials. And then my mom, she got the lettering under. She got a tattoo of our dragon. You remember the baby dragon we had?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
the baby dragon's name tattooed underneath the dragon because it was missing.
Your mom was awesome.
She is. I received that.
What's up, Thrival Journey listeners and watchers? Look, if you're someone with big dreams of entrepreneurship but need a flexible way to earn income while building your business, let me tell you about the Orions Group. Through our partnership with Arise Virtual Solutions, you can become a customer support professional, aka CSP, and start earning from home on your own terms. Arise offers a streamlined certification process, getting you trained and ready to work with well-known brands all across America. You can set your own hours, choose the clients you want to work with, and create a work-life balance that fits your entrepreneurial goals. The best part, you don't have to choose between your side gig and your business dreams. Being a CSP with the Orions Group means you can bring in extra income while have the flexibility to focus on growing your own venture, much like I did. Whether you're looking to supplement your income or need a bridge while building your empire, this is the opportunity for you. You interested? If so, head over to www.theorionsgroup.com to learn more about becoming a CSP with the Orions Group. Look here. Support your entrepreneurial journey while supporting the Thrival Journey podcast at the same time. All right, one more time, www.theorionsgroup.com. All right, we're done with the spot. Let's get back to the podcast. So it sounds like to me that you're really living a life that you've created.
Completely.
What is your purpose in life?
You know, that's such a great question. It used to be, and since I was a kid, I would have said the same thing. I would have said to leave this place better than I found it. And I think that's still definitely a part of it. But I also today see a lot more room for enjoyment. Like everything doesn't have to be work, and you can leave a place or a person or a group of people better, and it doesn't have to look like work to do it. So I think that leaving this place better than I found it is still true. But for me, I think at this point today, also done in a way that I get to do something and some things that I really love, that I really enjoy, that light me up. Like you can have it all, So that, yeah. And to have like as much fun as possible.
I love that.
Like love on as many people as I can. And
well,
yeah.
There are people that will be watching or listening, and they'll look at your story and they're like, "How do I do that for myself?" What would be your advice for someone?
Hire me. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding and I'm not kidding.
I was about to say, yeah, you're not kidding.
Valiant thing to try on one's own. I'll say that. Like if somebody wants to do ideally exactly what I've done, it's not something I would recommend anybody try without experience in real estate and or a great mentor, as I had both when I started. I had resources, if you don't have resources, like you need them. So the number one thing you want to do, a lot of people come to me and they want to buy an investment property and they don't own a home of their own yet. And it just doesn't make sense. So buy your first home, period. Like just that is investing in real estate. People don't tend to think about it that way because they're thinking, well, it's not going to make me money. Well, you can buy a house that has a finished basement or a garage apartment or an in-law suite, and you live in one and rent the other. Like, yeah, you're in there, and it may not look as sexy as they dream right out the gate, but like you gotta it's time to like demystify, what's possible in real estate from day one for most people. Most people don't have multiple six figures cash in a bank account where they can just buy a property. So if you want to get started and you're an everyday person with a regular job, that's the best way to get started. That's what I did. And just build from there. I mean, you heard what I did, but also have great mentors, and I am available for hire.
Yeah, you are.
Now, and I'm looking at where I'm going to invest, internationally, having divested my real estate from Atlanta. But I do this now virtually with all my clients still in the US, all over the US. I help them plan the strategy, get it right, plan the finances and the numbers, because if your numbers aren't right, it's not going to work. And so I was gifted to know how to do that early. And it's not hard, but you got to know what you're doing.
You gotta know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You and I have had a meeting, and I wasn't ready at the time, but I'm getting ready.
Are
I'm
you?
getting I'm
Let's
getting
go.
ready. So you'll be hired by me for sure.
Even better. I
Pretty
love it.
soon here. So the plan is still there.
Wait.
So when was the word success a part of your DNA?
Oh, when was it a part of my DNA?
And then when did you realize that you had success?
I would say probably when
Or
I was
what you define
born.
as success? When you were born. Okay, there you go.
I mean, I think of who my mom and my dad both are,
Hmm.
and it was in the architecture already. You know, my mom is very, very hardworking and she's retired now, but was for the majority of my life. Now she's kind of chilling, which is great to see. My dad is one of the most hardworking people I've ever seen. Not only that, one of the most resilient and committed people that just refuses to give up. It's not in his vocabulary.
Mm. Yeah.
So those were my parents. And not only that, I told you my dad, like, I didn't have a concept of like failure. Like, it didn't exist to me. I was like drilled into my head, like, I will win no matter what. It was like drilled into my whole being since I was a child. And even if I didn't win this game, I was going to win the season. You know, like there was and every loss, there was a lesson. And he would always ask me, like, what did you learn? What did you learn? What did you get? Kind of like a lot of like landmark, like always looking. I had like that coach in my life, my whole life. So, and then when your second question was like, when did I really realize it for myself? Is that your
Hmm.
second?
Yes.
That's a success was part of my DNA, probably somewhere in my landmark journey. Likely around the acquisition of the third property, because having the two, I was still kind of scared and going through stuff and worried, like, what if this doesn't work, and had doubts about myself. But probably after the third, and I was able to have the third and have all three running when I was away, I was like, oh yeah, like, yeah, this was in me all along. It just took some time to get here.
Yeah. Well, that kind of speaks to what I'm thinking about throughout parts of this conversation. Um, there was no instant gratification. Like you
No.
put sweat equity in, and you did what you needed to do in order
Yeah.
to get to where you are now. And I
Yeah.
think there are people that think that when you get into any kind of business that it's instantaneous.
Oh Lord. You and I both. That's not true.
We know it's not true. Dispel the myth of that, like especially with Airbnb and real estate.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, you know, and I'll be straight too. I've had a couple of clients, you know, complete the process, buy their property, buy their first or their second, you know, put it up on Airbnb, give it a go for 6 months, a year, and decide this isn't for me, you know? So
Really?
one, it's not for everyone. Sure. It's not for everybody. And when you're just starting out, you know, the biggest cost of running an Airbnb would be cleaning and management. And a lot of people come to me and they want to buy a property. They don't necessarily have a whole lot of money and they want to outsource cleaning and management from day one. And I'm always advising them, like, don't do that. Like, is there a way for you to be able to clean it yourself? Even if it's once a week, maybe, and you outsource once a week. I have a client who does that up in Providence. Like, that's the biggest expense. These cleaners are not cheap. They're charging over
Mm-hmm.
$100 plus for a clean. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I remember doing it. I wish somebody would pay me that, right? It's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't take that long. It's like 2 hours, get in, get out. Who wants $120 for that? Get out of here. So yeah, if you don't have a boatload of capital, you know, to invest and pay for this stuff right out of the gate, then yeah, you're likely looking at sweat equity and labor. And
Mm-hmm.
are you up for that? but the benefit is, and so like it's not exciting, it's not sexy, it's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna pretend, like there were times on like a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, I had to go down and clean 1 or 2 properties myself. And sure, I would have definitely had rather be hanging out with my friends on Sunday fun day at the bar or out of a lake or something. And
There you go.
I sure wasn't, but like I saw the bigger picture and I believed
Right.
in the long-term game, and I knew it wasn't going to take forever. It
Right.
took me 3 years. I get 4. It depends on how you count, from the first property purchase till having number 3 and all up and running independently without me. 4. It's not a long journey.
So you have to be okay with the delayed gratification.
For sure. And my clients now are able to scale faster because I know all the things that I didn't know then. So it took me longer. And that's also why I divested, because I was like, knowing now the organization of the portfolio I have doesn't really make sense. I'm not maximizing my resources, but I can help my clients plan that ahead of time from the beginning. And it could be way shorter for them. So yeah, I shorten the timeline for them.
There had to be setbacks also. How did you how did you handle those, and what keeps you motivated?
Setbacks. I mean, the second property, my first investment property I had, all of that work that came, like, it was scary. Like when I was looking at the numbers, and it was like, it's close right now for me to like call it. How much cash do I have left to invest in this property before I start creating more debt, which I don't want to do. But what keeps me motivated? I stick to the math, and I think a lot of people are afraid of math, which I don't know why. It's not hard. The math that you need to know to be successful in real estate is not difficult math. Like, we're not talking algebra or trigonometry here. It's like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and some percentages. We can do this on our cell phone, but everyone doesn't necessarily know how to put it all together. I stick to the math. I did my projections. I looked at, what have I invested? What's this next thing going to cost me? What is this making me when it's up and running? And when is the break even point? And also just looking at, for my cash flow, like, how many weeks do I have to be able to go without another problem just to get back to a place where this bank account for this property is comfortable, where I have a few months of the expenses saved. I do all of that math. I stick to the numbers all the time because the numbers don't lie. If we don't know our numbers, we're likely relying on our feelings, and there's never a powerful place to be. And our feelings don't matter when it comes to math and just numbers. So that's what I did. And what keeps me motivated? What keeps me motivated? I don't know. I don't know. That's a super great question. I think I have a natural lust for life in like all areas. Like, so what kept me motivated for that property was I could see the light, and I was like, I'm going to cross my fingers that we're going to go 4 weeks without another problem, and we'll be in a better, more comfortable position. And then from there, these problems will decrease. And they did. But also, like, in my fitness life, I'm in the gym usually 4 mornings a week at 6:30 in the morning. I do lots of like athletic type things in my free time, meditation. I don't know. I really like, not even love, but like, I'm in love with the experience of life, like everything, the good and the bad. It's so rich.
Yeah. I
stay very close to my own experience. Yeah. It's good.
I'm listening to you, and
it's like a passion. Yeah, I'm very passionate.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're just passionate about what you did, what you do, and who you are. And like serving your clients, that sounds like, it's lucky for them to have you.
Yeah. Thank you. We have so much fun. Oh my goodness gracious. I hope that audio wasn't super loud. I was almost yelling.
It's okay.
I love my clients. They know it. Oh my gosh. I love them. Capital LOVE. And we have the best time. And I think I sort of tend to attract, some like-minded people. I attract people who really want growth. I attract people who aren't afraid to do some work. I attract people who are willing to take risks. So like the type of people who end up choosing to work with me are also really effing dope,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we have the most fun. It's largely not work. I love my clients so much. I have so much fun.
Well, they say if you're doing something that you love, it doesn't feel like it
It's
doesn't
not
feel like work.
every once in a while it is, but not when I'm with my clients, not at all. No.
Yeah, there's the ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's your mindset with business. Like, where did that come from? Is it something that
Cool.
you learned? Did you think you always had the mindset for business?
Oh, I never saw this for myself. Not
Okay.
like this. When I was a kid, because I was very like I've always been very community oriented. When I was a kid, I thought I would like be the executive director or maybe own like my own nonprofit that was around like community engagement, community empowerment, all kinds of education outside of school.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't really think about that from a business standpoint because like as a kid and even as a teenager and a young adult, like the goal, in my opinion, for the nonprofit wouldn't necessarily be to make a lot of money. The goal would
Right.
be to empower a lot of people and help people have better lives, higher quality lives. Today, I mean, this is just the direction that my life has taken me. I don't know what my mindset around business is. This is really great, and I'll be open and vulnerable, transparent about this. Like, I'm not the most disciplined business owner, not by a long shot. I'm working on it. I'm working
I hear
on it.
you.
The idea of discipline does not excite me, and I can see the value in it. But I live a currently, and I have like I for the last few years live a pretty, I feel like it's a very balanced life for me in terms of how much I work and how much I'm like resting, relaxing, and how much I play. And I've
Hmm.
always wanted that. Um and so when I tell people like how many hours a week I work, they're like, "What?" I'm like it works for me. Could I work more and probably double or triple or quadruple my revenue? Sure. Do I want that life? I want to lay on the beach on a Wednesday and have
It's a life
everything
you create.
work. Like, so I'm not, although I am kind of like scaling a little bit right now, but still a lot of that, like my focus is on my overall quality of life. It's not
Mm.
on building some massive business to be a billionaire. I don't care for that. I care about having the most quality of life while I'm here.
And that's exactly what I heard. As you were talking about that and sharing that, I was like, the quality of life that you live
Yeah.
is perfect for you.
Yeah. Yeah, like I went and got tattoos with my mom yesterday on a Wednesday. We had a wonderful lunch outdoors. I want to have that. Wednesday's usually my off day, but like, yeah,
And you have that.
yeah, I have it.
That's that's pretty great.
Yeah,
Um, you know, we're let's talk a little bit more about Airbnb.
sure.
How does one identify the opportunity for what an Airbnb is, or how do they
Hmm.
first identify that opportunity?
Oh, oh. I think a lot of things could be an Airbnb. A house, an apartment, a condo, a a unit in a multi-unit building in a duplex, like one of the units. Um, what's typically needed, or I should say, what performs best, is to have a space where there's a separate guest entrance so guests can come and go as they please and not have to
Hmm.
interact with you. There's obviously there needs to be a full like a sleeping area, even if it's just a studio. There needs to be a full bath. They need the amenities that they need for daily living. And if there's a small kitchen or a kitchenette, that's great. Even a kitchen is not even required. But that's like the basic minimum. If you have a space that has a separate entrance, a full bath, and you can create an area to sleep, I mean, that's sufficient for a basic Airbnb. Anything above that is even better. Most things, like a lot of things, are Airbnb-able. But I think the bigger question that most people are usually curious about is, how do I identify something that will be high performing? Because every Airbnb is not high performing. There's a lot of
Right.
below out there and a lot of listings that are just super mediocre and doing like very okay. You know,
Really?
high performing. I create high performance. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different question, and I'm not going to share what it is to look for because somebody would have to hire me. That's very valuable.
I was going to say, I know you're not going to go too deep because that's,
Yeah,
that's your business.
Yeah, but we find it, and it's part like can be market specific, and there are some things that aren't necessarily market specific that work everywhere. But yeah, like I always look at the market that someone is in, do that research, and then there's also things I just know that just work in every market. So I bring that to my clients too.
So the real estate game for 2025, because this actually we're recording this in 2024, but this would actually show in 2025.
Yeah.
What does it look like, or what do you think it's going to look like next year?
Yeah. What do I think the market's going to look like in the U.S. or what does real estate look like for me in 2025 in the U.S.?
In the U.S.
Oh, I don't know.
Because there's a shift, right? There's going to be there's a shift with, the administration and all that kind of good stuff. So
I don't know what to expect.
Oh, you don't know what to expect.
Really don't know what to expect from the incoming administration. I've heard and read things that allude to that the incoming president and whomever else, Elon Musk and other billionaires and whatnot are looking to do things economically that will drastically drop the price, if not, or the values, of things across the board in the US to make commodities cheap so that they can buy them up cheap and then make themselves richer and richer and richer. I have no idea how true that is or not. I hope that doesn't happen because that usually causes a lot of strife for everyday folks. Like,
right.
I hope that doesn't happen. And there's opportunity in it if it does, but folks have to be ready. And it's like, you're not likely to get ready in just 2 or 3 months. Like you would have had to have been preparing for this for probably a few years if you're going to want to capitalize on that. So I honestly don't know. If you asked me a year ago, I would have some kind of a clear answer, but I really don't know what to expect.
I think that's probably where people's minds might be, like in the world of, I don't know. Because things are kind of unclear at the moment.
Yeah. And I can see people being hesitant to invest, although I think that we can expect some rate drops. So that might make it also more easier for people to invest and buy what they want because things will be more affordable. Like the same property will be more affordable for them to do that. Overall, I always hold the belief, though, that it's always a good time to invest in real estate. It always is. And I'm typically, a buy and hold investor. I'm not a flipper, So when people are trying to like buy something, fix it up and sell it 6 months or a year later, that can be very dependent on the market. You buy high and then prices drop, you're screwed. I typically don't do that. I buy and I hold for multiple years. So even if the market goes up and down, I'm not concerned because I'm only concerned that my monthly revenue is covering the cost and there's profit.
Yeah.
And so as long as those numbers work, it really doesn't matter to me if the value dropped because I wasn't trying to sell anyway. So I really don't know. Well,
that's probably where most, minds are at the moment. I don't know. And that sounds like a solid plan that you have, just purchase and hold, and that does create income.
If especially if somebody is not a homeowner yet, there are so many ways to do it so affordably. Like most of my clients spend less than $5,000 out of pocket. Like, what
Really,
does it cost to get a rental? Yeah, my last client who just closed, he cost him $2,650. That's like
that's
getting a
remarkably
rental,
low.
right?
Yeah.
That's like first month's rent and a security deposit somewhere. It's very doable, far more doable than a lot of people think in any city or county across the US. Um, so if somebody already doesn't own a home yet, I still think that that's still a wise investment, especially as a first time buyer, because of the benefits that are out there and how affordable it really can be. People just don't know what they don't know. And I do serve people who just want to buy a home, even if they don't want to do Airbnb. I'll help them find all that stuff too anywhere.
Well, that
But
sounds very promising, especially the people who are unclear about the steps and what to do in order to actually own a home.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're there for that.
Yeah, I think it's an important part of creating financial stability for any person or family. And then
Hmm.
even if you're not thinking like an investor and you don't think you want to grow a portfolio, that's fine. And later on you might choose to. And it's powerful to have that, like I didn't expect my first property to double in value in 2 years.
Hmm.
That's crazy and that's possible anywhere. And like just imagine how that could change the life for a person or a family even if they didn't want to put that in real estate. Like
Right.
that could be a huge business investment. That could be a lot of things, equipment purchase for someone who has a film company. I don't know. It could be a million things.
Could be anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you live kind of in the unknown a little bit. What's
Hmm.
next?
Right now, a bit. And, I'm always creating. Like I always have a idea of what I want. I'm always calling a shot.
Hmm. Hmm.
Multiple
That's you.
shots. I'm a shot caller for sure. There's always shots that I'm calling. So yeah. Are you asking what's the next for me?
Well,
Is
yeah.
that your
Well, what's next for you
That's
in
just
the world of
interesting.
the unknown?
Yeah. I haven't really said this very much to many people, but I love Lima and I'll be here. This is like a home, but I would like to have multiple properties in different cities around the world. And so what's next for me is enjoying time here for a bit, visiting family, and then I intend to buy a home in Cape Town, South Africa. I think that will be my
Nice.
first international purchase, probably next fall. Um,
A- Africa is a place that that's on my to-do list.
you have to
So
go.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will.
Oh, I will.
Boy.
That will be the next thing for me. So
Mhm,
I gotta go. I just gotta
mhm.
go.
It's life changing for sure. So that's next. I mean,
Uh-huh.
there are other cities I have my eye on, but I feel like that's home. I think that's actually where I'm going to like root myself down for the
Nice.
most part because I still want multiple and I want to be able to just be wherever I want to be whenever I want to be there. So that will be
Kind of
I'll be
fluid
there
in life.
most of the time. Say what?
No. I said you want to be fluid in life, just being able to
Just
flow.
You know, somewhat, yes. Yes. I also like to have my hands in a lot of different things. So I can see myself having like business and perhaps like owning like a foundation that does great work in South Africa to like feed people and educate people and do creative arts for young people, but do the same thing here in Lima or in Colombia and one other place. Like, I also am really picky about my weather. So I like to be wherever I
Mm.
like best. And so when it's cold there, I don't want to be there.
Hello.
So I need a place
Hello.
that's hot when Cape Town is cold,
Hello.
also.
Well, I'm from Michigan, but you're
From
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'm from Michigan, and I tell you, when I moved I went to Spain, and that's the first time that I experienced being in the winter where it's kind of cold, but there's no snow. You know, that was the first time I went. I actually lived in that, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is kind of wonderful," you know.
Amazing.
And when I came back in this. I think it was January of whatever year it was, and I was like, "This is not it. This is not it." And I
It's not.
moved to. This is not it. So I moved to Atlanta, and it was great. I think it snowed a little bit here in Atlanta, and then I was like, you know. Plus my ambition, I moved to Los Angeles, and I was like, oh, this is it.
That's the,
And
yeah.
being there for so long, I was like, I'm never going back. I don't like to ski. I don't like all that. So I got to stay in a hot space.
Mhm.
I'm for that.
I
I
feel
am
that.
for that.
Yeah, I don't desire to experience snow. I'm not a fan. I had enough from birth to age 24 whenever I moved to Atlanta.
Right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good.
I had my
Tawny,
fill.
man, you had your fill? Like, yeah, I'm good too. Anybody, if y'all like the snow, love it. You know, people that live in Alaska and all that, you know what I'm saying? Y'all can have that. You
Knock
know,
yourself
and
out.
don't have to worry about me visiting. Um,
No competition here.
none. You are truly impacting lives, right? Like, you know, you're just doing your thing.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody that walked up to you and wanted to just change their life?
Oh. Ooh. They wanted to just change their life. I mean, the coach in me has questions, but like, I mean,
I
put those
know.
away.
It's kind of a
Uh,
broad question.
right. I would ask them, what's their long game? Like, what do they ultimately want? Like, what's the big goal at the end that it could take 10 or 20 years to reach? And then align everything in your life towards that goal. Like, I've known that Cape Town was my home for probably 20 years. I was there 20 years ago. Yeah, and I haven't been back yet. And I didn't do that. I didn't necessarily align it. I kind of knew it and then forgot and then remembered and then forgot. And
Yeah.
my life took me in all these ways, and money was not always available. So I just did what I had to do for a while, you know? But if you have the time and the resources, or you can, like, if you have a comfortable living space and you can have the time to plan, like, whatever you want your life to be, just scale it backwards. And I don't always do like the unfolding. It doesn't have to be in writing. It doesn't have to, but like, know what it is up here. See the vision, like, see yourself growing from where you are now to what's next, and then what's next, and then what's next, until you can see the whole thing and just live it.
And live it.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Thank you.
See it, be it, live it.
Live it.
I hear that. My last question to you is, if this is like your last remark, what would be a story or a last thing that you want to share with someone who's listening to the podcast and listening to you?
I don't have a story, but I will say this, like, I never expected my life to be the way it is right now, you know? And like, let that be a testament. Like, anything is possible. Like, you truly can do anything you want to do. Aside from maybe defying gravity, unless you're in a rocket ship thing, but like, you really can. So don't believe your limitations and your limiting beliefs when they show up, and if you need support, like, I mean, we met inside of a program, like, get around people who are going to speak to the power in you and the best in you and remind you how amazing you are, because you really can do anything, and get away from people who are going to tell you that you have some limitation, because you don't have any. You can do anything in the world you want. Go do it.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Get rid of the limiting beliefs and the limitations that you have on your life. Yeah. Tawny, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Yeah. I know you're over there in Lima, Peru, but you spent some time, not Lima, Ohio, Lima, Peru. And I want to say thank you for being on the Thrive Well Journey podcast. I really appreciate it.